You already know you have the right to record police in public, but that doesn't stop some officers from trying to shut you down anyway. Maybe they say you're interfering. Maybe it's on private property, or maybe they just take your phone and call it evidence. Hi, I'm criminal defense attorney J. Scott Smith, and I've been practicing in North Carolina for over 18 years, and I've seen every trick officers use to sidestep your rights without ever breaking the law. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how they do it and how to protect yourself in each situation without escalating things or putting yourself at risk. So your footage stays safe, your record stays clean, and your rights actually mean something when it matters the most. Let's jump right into it. In North Carolina, you absolutely have the right to record police during a public interaction, like a traffic stop or an arrest, as long as you're not interfering. Sounds simple, right? But interference is often in the eye of the beholder. And in practice, that means the officer on the scene. Let me tell you a story that I've heard more than once in my office. Someone's standing on the sidewalk, phone out, filming an arrest down the block. An officer walks up and says, "You need to back up. You're interfering with our investigation." Maybe the person's 20 feet away. Maybe they're just not saying a word, just holding the phone steady. But the officer repeats the command, "Get back or you'll be arrested." I've worked on cases where people have been threatened with arrest or even charged with resisting, delaying, or obstructing an officer, what we call RDO here, just for holding their phone. This charge often doesn't stick in court, but it ruins your day and forces you into the legal system. Here's the reality. Police know that saying you're interfering is a quick way to shut down your recording, or at least push you far enough back that the footage is useless. It's not always fair, but it happens all the time. So what can you do? Keep a safe distance. Don't shout. Don't physically approach. If an officer tells you to move, try to calmly ask, "How far back would you like me to stand?" But if you keep filming quietly from where you're told, you're on stronger ground. Another way police get around your right to record them in North Carolina is by invoking private property rights. Here's how it works. Let's say you're at a gas station parking lot. You see an arrest happening. You pull out your phone and start filming. An officer approaches and says, "This is private property. The owner doesn't want you filming here. You need to leave." Is that legal? Technically, yes, if the property owner or manager actually asks you to leave. In North Carolina, like most states, you lose your right to be on private property if the owner or someone speaking for the owner tells you to get off the premises. If you refuse, it could be trespassing. Where it gets tricky is that police sometimes invoke property rights even when the owner hasn't complained. Officers might say, "We've been asked by the staff to clear this area. No filming allowed." You've got to ask yourself, is that really what's happening, or is it a way to get you to stop recording? Sometimes officers will proactively ask business owners to clear bystanders, especially if they don't want anyone filming. If you're on public property like a sidewalk, a street, or a public park, you have much stronger rights. Police can't make up a private property rule just to get you off public land, but the line between public and private can be blurry. The front step of a business, the parking lot after hours, I've seen cases go both ways. The best thing you can do is to know where you are. If you're on public property, respectfully let the officer know you're within your rights to film. On private property, if you're asked to leave, it's usually smart to move to the nearest public spot and keep recording from there. Now let's talk about officer safety. This is the number one phrase I hear when clients tell me why police stop their recording. Here's what usually happens. You're filming a traffic stop and an officer suddenly says, "Back up, you're putting my safety at risk." Sometimes they add, "I don't know what you have in your hand," or "I can't focus on the stop if you're behind me." North Carolina law gives police some leeway for officer safety, but it's not a blank check. Courts have said that a reasonable distance, enough so that you can't physically interfere, is usually fine. But police can and do stretch this, claiming that any observer with a phone is a potential threat, especially at night or in tense situations. I've had clients pushed across the street or told to stand behind police cars, or even blocked by a wall of officers and squad cars, making it almost impossible to see, let alone record. Here's another twist. If you question the officer or insist that you have a right to record, things can escalate quickly. Suddenly you're accused of creating a distraction or compromising officer safety. It's a catch-all excuse that's tough to argue with in the moment. My advice, always stay where officers can see both your hands. Don't make any sudden moves or approach from behind. If they give an order to move, obey it, but keep filming if you can. If you're told you have to stop recording for safety, politely ask if you can record from a specific spot. Remember, when police use safety as a reason, it's almost impossible to prove otherwise in the heat of the moment. But if you're calm, keep your cool, and never threaten or obstruct, you'll have a much stronger case later if things go wrong. Here's a tactic that really frustrates people. Police threaten you with arrest for disorderly conduct, or resisting, delaying, or obstructing if you don't put your phone away. This is where the law gets stretched past its original purpose. In North Carolina, disorderly conduct usually means you're causing a scene, yelling, cursing, refusing to leave, or inciting a crowd. But holding a phone and recording, that's not illegal. Still, I've seen officers tell people, if you don't stop recording, I'm going to charge you with disorderly conduct. Similarly, resisting arrest is meant for people who physically resist, run, or refuse to cooperate. But police sometimes stretch it to cover anyone who questions their authority, including people who calmly assert their right to record. Why do they do this? Because the threat of arrest is often enough to get people to put their phones away and leave. Nobody wants to spend a night in jail or risk having a criminal record just for standing up for their rights. I represented a college student once whose only offense was recording a group of officers after a bar closed. She was polite, she didn't interfere, but when she refused to stop filming, she was handcuffed for disorderly conduct. That charge was dropped, but only after she spent hours in holding and had her phone seized for evidence. If you're threatened with arrest, ask calmly, am I being detained, or am I free to go? Don't argue or raise your voice. If you're given a direct order, like leave this area, follow it. You can always record from farther away or challenge the situation later with legal help. Let's talk about the scariest move police make, taking your phone. I've seen people in North Carolina who recorded police misconduct only to have their phone grabbed right from their hand. Sometimes the officer says, that's evidence. Other times they'll order you to unlock your phone or delete the footage. Here's the truth. In North Carolina, police can only seize your phone as evidence if they have probable cause to believe it contains evidence of a crime. They're not allowed just to take your property just because they don't want to be filmed. And they definitely can't order you to delete videos. But here's what really happens. If you're arrested, your phone will probably be seized and held as evidence, even if you're just recording. You might get it back eventually, but sometimes the footage goes missing, or it's never returned at all. If police try to take your phone, do not physically resist. This can land you with extra charges. Say clearly, I do not consent to you taking my phone. If they demand your passcode, say, I do not consent to giving you my password. Under North Carolina law, you're not required to unlock your phone without a warrant. One thing you can do to protect yourself is use cloud backup for your videos. Apps like Dropbox, Google Photos, or even live streaming to Facebook or Instagram mean that even if your phone is seized or destroyed, your footage is safe. Let's recap what we've covered. In North Carolina, you're allowed to record police in public, but officers have a whole toolkit of ways to get around that right. Claiming interference, invoking private property, using safety as an excuse, threatening arrest, or even seizing your phone. The best way to protect yourself is to stay calm, keep your distance, and always obey direct orders, even if you think those orders are unfair. If you're on public property and not interfering, you're within your rights. If you're threatened with arrest and your phone is seized, don't argue. Get legal help as soon as possible. And don't forget, your phone's only as safe as your backup. Use the cloud. Protect your footage. If you found this helpful, you cannot afford to miss our next video. 5 lies police use to get a confession. I break down exactly what to do and what not to do if the police try to get you to talk. Don't wait until it happens to you. Click over there now and make sure you know your rights and avoid huge mistakes. I'll see you over there. And remember, arrested doesn't mean guilty.